No, it was actually a private company, but no, most of this situation in Iceland is from a government-owned company, but they have the same point of view. They are making energy to make electricity, and they're using water. So they're building a big dams to make huge lagoons and make power plants to produce electricity. And that's what this private company was planning to do here, partly on my land, and hugely affecting the river that runs by the farm, which is a clear blue river, but most of the water was from a glacier river that runs by this area. And so they were going to take this glacier river, move it in a tunnel to a natural valley, and put a dam in this blue river and use this valley to make the lagoon, a huge one, 10 square kilometers lagoon. A lot of grassland going under, and partly it was on a property that I own, so I was in situation to use my power as the owner of the land. But in Iceland we have the history, these plans just go through. These companies have their ways to get the land that they want and the water that they want, and they normally succeed. But the time is changing here as everywhere, and the government are making a master plan to this, so they have the best scientists of Iceland which are working, doing research, and they're giving their statements which ideas of power plants should go through, which should absolutely not go through, and which needs more research. So the end was that this particular power plant that this company was wanting to build here, the scientists say that it's a bad idea. So if this master plan goes through with the government, then it will be, the plans will be over, because then it will have this final saying of the government that this particular idea is a bad idea. But it's not, it's basically not through yet, but still a lot has to change, so it will go through. So in the late 2016 the battle cooled down because of this saying of the scientists that this was a bad idea. But up till then it was a ugly fight to protect the land, and not only my land, but of course land in this area and the rivers, both the rivers, and people were taking sides. Some wanted this to go through, some farmers, some people in the area, and others were against it. So it was a fight, public fight, and fighting between neighbors and families, and that's what these companies have been doing through the years in Iceland. That they make people fight. They make them get into fight, because then they're weaker. When the community isn't sticking together, then it's easier access. So it's a technique. Yes, it's really unfair, because the company has a man, not a man. They have few men working full time in this. They had one guy that he just had a job to make this going through. So he was just visiting the farmers, chatting and trying to get along with them and planning and organizing, and he was getting paid for this. And then you have the farmer like me, who already has too much to do every day, and not so much money, but and I had to take time to do all this too, you know, write some articles in papers and go into local politics to try to be ahead, and so it's really unfair battle, and that's how it is. That's how it's always been. It's always the course of the electricity of those companies. It's always on their terms. The battle is always on their terms, and then the landowners or whoever is trying to be against it has to defend. But I'm hoping as time slowly changes and people are realizing how important the nature is and how we treat it, that this thing will turn around. So if you want to do something like this, if you want to damage the nature highly to produce something like electricity, then you will have to how do you say it in English? You will have to prove your point. So the nature and the people that are protecting the nature, they will just have to stand their guard. They don't have to, because the laws and the rules would be on their side. But as it is, it's always the opposite. At this point in Iceland, we have enough electricity for the people, but as it is, and we also have power plants and geothermal factories that can increase their power, because something has already been damaged to make them. So if we can squeeze more power out of the ones we have, we don't need the new. And as in these days, a lot of the energy, a lot of the electricity, over 80% is or was going to polluting factories, mostly owned by people from other countries. But two of them have been closed down, so at least temporary. So now we have enough electricity, but there's always the money talking. There's always some company and some saying we need more electricity, we need to keep making more electricity and more, because some of these people, they dream about exporting electricity through a cable undersea to Europe. And if that goes through, if the cable goes through, then they will have the excuse to say, now we really have to make more power plants because now we have this cable, so we have to keep up to what we've been promising. So it's always like a ball. Yeah. And but as it is, we have enough electricity for every normal house, every normal household, every normal person. I mean, you can have as many machines or cars or whatever you like that runs on electricity without Iceland running out of electricity. it's not happening, but it's still always the same. More. From this point of view, the river that is behind me would have been a lot smaller, not even 1/3 of what it is now. and one of the canyons that it goes through, a deep, narrow canyon, would have been completely dry because they were going to stop the river in the end of this canyon. And then just some small rivers that are now going into this one. They would just have made a very small river that would have passed the farm, so that would have been a huge change. But we can't see the lagoon itself from here. It's a little further north, but only 4 kilometers. That's what they use, and that's what they've always been using, because they come to, they send some guy that is just casual looking and is smooth talking, and he offers money. And he offers money to farmers that have never seen money. And they just say, we'll pay you this amount, and what do you need? Do you need some better phone connection, or we'll have a road put up because of the power plant, and is the river flooding? We'll put up something to stop the river from flooding, no problem. And suddenly there's enough money, because before these same farmers have maybe been pressing and trying to have phone connection or roads or whatever, and then there is never any money. But if there's a power plant, then suddenly everything is floating in money. And they offer money, and so they get maybe one of the or two of the landowners or something to sell, or promise to sell, to settle, to sign some contract and to have some money and give the land instead. And then they'll go to the next farm and said, your neighbor, he just signed, you don't want to stand against that, do you? And he's gonna get money, don't you want some money? So that's their technique, and it works sometimes, because everybody, I mean, who doesn't want money? So, but I don't think that it's fair that I own this land for some years, but the land has always been here, and it's hopefully gonna be here when I'm gone. So why should I take money for ruining the land, and then what? I mean, then the land is, to change the land forever, and I don't think anyone has the right to do this. But that's my point of view. But other farmers would say it's my land, I paid for it, and I can do whatever I want. So it's different point of views. That's part of what I was saying earlier. I don't think anyone has the right to do it, because I see myself as I'm just keeper of the land. I'm just trying to take care of it, and I built everything I have on it. It's providing for me this land, and I have to give it back to the next generation or whoever, and also is behind really many farms in Iceland. This farm doesn't have that long family history. My grandparents came here at 1952, but many farmers in Iceland have had the same family for generations and hundreds of years. But still, even though we don't have this really long history, we have a lot of people that connect to this particular farm, because my father has siblings that used to come, and some of their children used to be here for in the summertime. And then I have my sisters, and they have their children, and a lot of kids, all kinds of kids, related or not related, have been here in the summertime. So there is always around every farm is a lot of people, not just the farmers. But it's responsibility to run a farm, because not only for the animals and all the daily work. It's a vacation spot or some part of land, some place that many people connect to and want to. They like to be able to come.
Yeah.
They don't want to see it ruined. It's not in this property anymore, but there is a small wild forest here in this area.
Yeah.
A very old one, and it probably has been here. Like the old saying is that Iceland had forest from sea to mountain tops. It was covered with forest, and so there is another power plant idea just on the other side of this area. And I also, in the first idea of that power plant, that was partly on my property on the other side of my land property, but it's as this idea stands today, it's a little bit further south. But that's a company that's owned by the government, and that idea is to put up a similar lagoon, and that would drown a lot of this wild forest. In the same time as we are trying to build up new forests, planting trees, and the governments are paying people to plant trees, and in the same time a government-owned company is planning to destroy some trees. So it's ridiculous. It's totally ridiculous, but still going on. It's a little different if it's the grass fields that are close to the farm and used for grazing the sheep and making hay. In that case, we have to use a lot of fertilizer, both fertilizer that we buy, which is imported, and of course is polluting, and also we use the fertilizer from the sheep, the sheep shit. We put that on the grass fields, and we press those grass fields a lot. We really press that land to produce a lot of grass during one summer. So we have to give it back a lot of fertilizer and plowing it every once in a while, and to take the old surface, put it under and get some fresh surface. But the other grassland, that is just a wild grassland, we just have to, that has to take care of itself mostly, but we have to make sure that the sheep are not misusing it. So we have to make sure that the sheep are not outside in this wild grassland until the grassland's ready. That can be a little different depending on the weather and how the winter is. If the spring is cold or warm, then in the good spring, when it's not much snow and it's not much frost in the ground and the spring is warm, then the wild grassland is growing sooner. But if the spring is cold and difficult, then it can be maybe not until late June or July. And of course, the higher we get, the later the summer begins. So we have to make sure that the sheep are not outside until the land is completely ready, and to make sure of that, we have some plants, some herbs that we can tell that if this particular herb is blooming, then some other herbs are definitely ready, and so on. And we also have this government-owned company or organization that takes care of the grassland and is responsible for giving the permission to release the sheep in the summertime. So no sheep goes outside a fence, no sheep goes out to the mountains or the wild grassland before permission in this area, but it's a little bit different between areas in the country. Between like the national park and the farms, experience. It's when the Vatnajökull National Park was starting, and then when it was growing, the farmers were really worried that this was a way of the government to stop the free roaming of the sheep. But that was never the plan. And in the master plan of the national park says that the farmers will keep all their traditional use of the highland. So as long as we treat the highland and the grassland with respect, and we make sure that the sheep are not there are not too many, and that the grassland is improving and not the opposite, then there is no difference between, like in this area we have a part of the highland where our sheep are roaming in the summertime. Part of it is inside the Vatnajökull National Park and part of it is outside, and there is no difference. We just release the sheep, and some of them will be inside the national park, some of them will be outside, and then we go gathering them, and we have the same ways of gathering the sheep inside and outside the national park, and everything. We have had a really good how do you say it? We've been working really well together with the national park. And so if we're gonna have the bigger national park, that I really hope we're gonna do, and put all the highlands inside the national park, then we will have the same rules. So we don't have to worry, but in that case, but people are not convinced. So many farmers are afraid that they will lose the right to use the land. But I'm not worried about that, because I've been on the board of the Vatnajökull National Park, and I know it's the same in the bigger one. So we're not going to lose the grassland because of the national park, but that doesn't necessarily mean that we're going to have this right forever. I mean, times are changing, things are changing. Number of sheep are always increasing. I'm really stubborn. That's I think the most reason, because I just really wanted to. I wanted this farm to be a good farm also, and I was sure I could do it, and I wanted to prove I could do it, and and I'm also really connected to the nature and to the animals, and I'm much better with, I'm not good with people, but I'm good with animals. And so it's easier for me to live with them than to live with too many people. So it was always it was quite difficult. This farmer's difficult history. It was my mother's first husband. That was my father, and he were brothers. And he died close by, looking for sheep, and had snow, like a snow flood, and so he died. And my sister died as a teenager, and it's been a difficult story, and no, it wasn't a very high quality farming, so it was like I wanted to make it somehow rise again, and I wanted to be in peace with the to make peace with the place somehow. I don't know if I can describe it, and to make it back to a farm or a spot where my family could come, could feel everything was okay, everything was safe, everything was put together, peaceful, organized. And now I have my niece. She built a house on my property, and her husband, and she has a little daughter. So it succeeded. It's now a peaceful place where they like to come, like to be. But I'm also a loner, so I don't want them too close. Yeah, I think the gap is always growing a little bit. Now we have kids. No, not even kids. We have generations in Reykjavik that has basically no connection to the areas, to the countryside, and kids that have no opportunities to go to the countryside. It's not so long ago where kids were going to the countryside in the summertime to help around the farms and all that. But it's mostly history now. So the connections are not as good as it used to be, and we have people in Reykjavik who are going maybe a few times a year abroad, but they basically never leave Reykjavik to the other side of the country. They just go abroad. And there's also this misunderstanding about the farming life. So many, and the belief that the farmers are just chilling. They're just laying around and waiting for some money from the government. Because we of course get some money from the government. Every country supports the farmers, because if the farmers would only have their money through the price of the farming products, then they would be too expensive for normal people to buy them. You couldn't buy milk for your children if you had to pay the real price, what it costs to produce the milk. So that's where the government steps in. It's to support the farmers, and it's also to make it possible for normal people to buy the food. But when you don't know much about it, you think that we're only paying the farmers with the tax money so they can just playing around in their farming game. So, but that's not what it's really about. And I saw the opportunity through this book that Steinunn wrote to try to explain the modern farming to other people, to city people. So when I realized that it was going to be a book not only about this particular power plant, but it would have to be about me, then I was in too deep to back out, because I had already said yes to the author. So then I realized there was an opportunity to do this, to try to explain to people the modern farming. And it was also nice to hear that the farmers who read the book, they were also happy about it, because it was like a PR stunt a little bit. So that was a success in the book. So I saw the opportunity in the book, not of course the environmental case, which the book was originally about, and the opportunity to talk about the farming and explain it a little bit, and to try to make people realize that it's a lot of work, it's a lot of responsibility, and it's a complicated life, and not just waiting for the money to check in from the government. And then I also saw the opportunity for the feminism cause, to talk about the feminism and women's rights and all that. And all these three main courses came through in the book. And I've got a lot of feedback from people. Some some city girls in Reykjavik University were really fond about the book, and that was maybe only because of the feminism side, because they had known nothing about farming and have not so much interest in that, but they could relate to the book because of the feminism side. And then there were some other people that connected to it through the farming side, and then it was the environmental. So it all succeeded. These three, I saw these three chances, and they all came through. And that's also because Steinunn, the writer, is a really good in her job. Yeah, definitely. We can see the climate changing, but it's happening slower here in the north than maybe even in Europe, where they have this always new record every summer. It's always warmer and warmer and warmer. But we have seen like the weather is more crazy. It's always been a lot of rain, of course, but now it's a few times it's been raining so much, and the weather can be really stormy or really warm when it shouldn't be so warm, really dry. It's more how to say it? It's like more aggressive in every way. But this the fact that it's no snow is that's been happening. It's just different between years. And last year we had almost a very little snow until the middle of January, and then we had a lot of snow. And a lot of snow. It was still a lot of snow here in April, so that can all change. And Yeah, but of course we see the climate changing all around, and you can't refuse. You can't deny it. It's everywhere. It's visible. Yeah. They're getting so small. They're getting so small so fast. They're melting so fast. And now I can see I do a little bit of kayaking, paddling on a kayak. And last fall we went to a glacier lagoon kayaking in the southeast of Iceland, close to Vatnajökull. And now we can go put the kayaks out on one lagoon and paddle to another one, and then we went on shore there, and it's a new land, just came out of the glacier. And this way to paddle around and to another lagoon, that was closed only 2 or 3 years ago. There was land, but who touched the glacier, but now the glacier has moved, so there's water around, and it has also moved back, so this new land is now visible. So it's and only I mean, if you look at pictures, only a few years old pictures, you can see the difference. So it's very visible, and only through the window you can see it. You can see the glacier when it's a little bit brighter than today. You see the Mýrdalsjökull from here, and it's changed. It's getting lower since I remember first. I'm not sure. I don't think it's come to that yet. Because like I said, it's slower here than in Europe, for example, but of course it will happen. And we don't need much change to I mean, if the Gulf Stream, the warm stream in the sea, would, for example, stop because of the climate changing and changing in the sea level, and then we will have a really cold climate in Iceland, for example. We can have different scenarios, but it's definitely happening. It will change if we don't do anything, and maybe we're even too late to do anything. I'm not sure if it's, but the Earth will probably. The Earth doesn't need us. We need the Earth. So. It's always it goes in circles, circle after circle. So, like when the lambing season starts, it's so happy to see the first lambs, and it's so much fun, and they're so cute, and when the last lamb comes, you're so relieved that it's finally over. And then it's so much fun to start the haymaking, and the smell and the sound of the tractor and everything, and then you're so relieved when that job is over. And it always goes like this, and I'm so happy when the sheep go outside in the summertime, and I'm so relieved that I don't have to have them, I don't have to see them, and then I'm so happy when they are back home in the fall. So it's always going in circles. But the best time is, I like growing something. I like seeing something coming from the ground. So when a beautiful grassland with a lot of potential for good haymaking is a very good moment, and of course every time when a job is over, a job well done, then it's a good day. So if a new fence done, or a fixing of a roof or whatever, just is successfully done, then it's good. And it's a good feeling to come home and just see the light. And just amazed about my privilege, about the privilege of living here in Iceland. It's good to travel and to see how incredibly lucky I am, basically, because we have a rich country. Iceland is a rich country, comparing to so many other countries, and all the space we have, and all the freedom. But it's so different. Like I've been in Peru and then in Nepal, where the farming is. You can't compare it even. It's so different. But it's also been really good. I've been in New Zealand and in the UK, sharing and staying on some farms, and it's that's also really good. Everything that gives a little bit more knowledge, more experience, because it's really easy. It's really easy on a place like this to just grow into it, and the world grows smaller and smaller around. So it's something that I think we have to be aware of and work on, to not just letting the world get narrower and narrower around. I mean, it's really easy just to not to think about anything else on the farm, and my neighbors just minding what are they doing now. It's easy. Yeah, it was quite a good experience, I think. When I look back, it's like everything that you can grow of, but I knew that it was something that I didn't like it, but I realized that modeling is a lot of work, and I don't want to put the people down that work in the modeling business. Absolutely not. It's hard work, and you have to stay in shape and all that, but I like to make my living with my hands and my mind. I was just lucky. My parents were really handsome, and I was lucky in that gene lottery, but that's nothing that I can take credit for. So I like to make my living out of something that I can do myself. But and then I've had some opportunities later after the book. I've had few modeling job after turning 40. So that was 20 years ago, 20 years later, back in modeling. So that's been fun. It's been fun. Yeah. Okay. It's really good. But the problem with the modeling industry is really young girls, really, and it's a hard world competition, and really have to live up to really standards that other people are. They're telling them you have to look this way and this way and this way, and it's. I'm not sure that it's good for them. I mean, maybe 14, 15 years old. Okay. Yeah, and I think that's why I see the designers asked me to be the model for them because of the connection. Because it's a lamb yearling, it's the skin from the lambs, we call it mokka. And it's, as you said, very, very sustainable, and it's it was really, it was an honor for me to be in this project because of this connection, and also that it's part of the, it's good for the farmers, it's good for us if we can use every bit of the animal, every piece of the animal. If the animal has to die, then it's good that we can use as much of it as possible. That's best for everybody. That's best for nature. That's best for us. So it's much better than to wear something plastic. Yeah. Like I mean, if you drop this skin coat in the ocean, it won't harm anybody. It just rottens and disappears. I mean, it doesn't get into microplastic and poison the sea. It's different. Try to be organized. If it's possible to, how do you say, to unite? Yeah, stay together. Because I think that it both, I mean, it's a technique here at least, to first destroy the communities, to make them, they're weaker if they don't stick together. So if people live in the same area or have the same how do you say it, hagsmuni, have the same
goal?
Yeah, something like that, yeah. Then it's good to try to somehow find the same goal, find the same way, to try to work together. And there's also, when you start looking for it, there is support in places where you wouldn't believe that you had some support. There are some organizations all over the world, some environmental organization that you can find support in. You can't do it alone because of it's so unfair, the battle. So if it's possible to find some help, to search for some support, because it's so easy you will so easily be destroyed. It's so easy to destroy these communities by and it's all over the world. It's history. Some huge pipes or roads or something.
The microphone's
yeah, okay.
Yeah.
And it's always the money power managed to crush the people. So unite or stay together, look for support. It would be my dream to have more organic farming and more more sustainable and more in peace with the environment. And also if we could somehow because I don't think, I'm not convinced. I understand the veganism on many levels, I really do, because mostly it's about animal welfare. And I can really understand that and relate to that thought of the animal rights and animal welfare. But I still believe it's better for the environment for people to eat local food, even though it comes from animals, if you know that they've been treated right, if you can be sure. If you can trust the farmers, if you can know where the food comes from. I think we have to go in that direction. We have to allow people and encourage it to come to take out the farms, to see how the animals are treated. We have to get them to trust us and eat the food that we produce, both from animals and also in Iceland we have a lot of electricity and hot water. We could grow more vegetables. For example, if the greenhouses would get the electricity on the same price as the big pollution companies get it from, then the greenhouses could grow a lot more of vegetables and stop importing so much. Because I'm not convinced about if the veganism is about the environment and the animal welfare, then I'm not sure that it's the right way to import, to fly some beans or some vegetables or whatever over the ocean, all the way across the globe to protect the environment. I would think that it would be better to eat something that's brought up closer. So I think that's the future. And we also don't know if the beans that we're buying from another part of the world, I mean, can we be sure that there wasn't some animals abused in that production? I mean, did we have some animals striking the plow, or did we have maybe people who weren't paid for working on the fields? Or I'm not sure that we can't be sure that no one was mistreated on the other side of the globe, even though we feel that we're doing really right by eating it, and can't be too sure. So I think we have to think more, think global, eat local. That's some kind of a phrase.